The royal family is besieged right now. Our king has cancer. Princess Catherine's recovering from serious abdominal surgery that will keep her away from public duties until at least Easter. The monarchy is unquestionably still finding its footing after the death of the late Queen. But through every crisis, one man has stood firm against a barrage, resolutely maintaining a pretty special gift for making everything all about him.
The Spotify deal? Gone. The Netflix content machine? Sputtering. Spare, the book that was supposed to be his Declaration of Independence, his literary middle finger to the institution that raised him, the royalties are drying up. The Invictus Games, the one project he actually cared about, is hemorrhaging sponsors and drowning in controversy because injured veterans are furious that the whole operation has somehow become a promotional vehicle for Harry and Meghan rather than the soldiers it was built to serve. Every door that was opened with royal gold is now quietly closing. London. Early June 2026. The decision is coming. Everyone knows it. The Home Office has been sitting on a ruling that could hand Prince Harry exactly what he has been demanding for years: armed police protection on British soil. Government sources have already whispered that it is, quote, nailed on. A formality. Done. And the moment that paper gets signed, a man who has not worked a real day in over a year will board a private jet from California and land on British soil with a plan. Not a plan for peace. Not a plan for family healing. A plan for money. Because that is what this has always been about. Strip away the tears. Strip away the therapy speak and the carefully worded statements and the Sussex public relations machine that never, ever sleeps. Strip all of it away and what is left is one cold, uncomfortable truth that the people closest to this story have been dancing around for months. Harry is broke. Not homeless. Not destitute. The man still lives in a $20 million estate in Montecito, California, with 16 bathrooms and a wine cellar and enough square footage to house a small village. But broke in the way that matters most to a man like Harry. Broke in influence. Broke in relevance. Broke in the only currency he ever truly understood: access to power, proximity to a crown, and the ability to monetize both. And Harry has finally noticed. What followed is a sequence of events so calculated, so precisely engineered, that to call it a reconciliation attempt would be an insult to the intelligence of everyone watching. This is not a prodigal son coming home. This is a man who spent 3 years selling the family silver, discovered the market had collapsed, and is now trying to buy it back at a discount. The palace has a word for it. Unforgivable. Hi viewers, here is a question that only takes 1 second to answer.
News. Prince Harry has said he is devastated about losing his latest legal challenge over the security he receives when he's in the UK. The Duke of Sussex's taxpayer-funded protection was downgraded back in 2020 after he stopped being a working royal.
Do you believe Harry genuinely regrets his actions, or do you think he only regrets that the money ran out? Drop your answer in the comments right now. The story begins, as so many Sussex stories do, not with a statement from Kensington Palace or a briefing from royal aides, but with a leak. A carefully placed, strategically timed leak to Page 6, the publication with some genuinely brilliant royal journalists who, on this occasion, were handed a story so neatly packaged it should have come with a bow. The message was simple. Harry, sources said, is totally obsessed with the idea of bringing Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet to England so they can spend time with King Charles. Read that again slowly. Obsessed. Bringing the children. Spending time with grandfather. That is not journalism. That is a press release with the letterhead removed. That is the Sussex communications machine, ruthless, relentless, and operating 24 hours a day, delivering a very specific emotional payload directly into the public conversation. And the payload was designed for one person. One audience of exactly one. A 77-year-old man with cancer sitting somewhere in one of his palaces who has not held his grandchildren in years. Because here is what the Page 6 story was really saying, underneath the warmth and the family language and the carefully chosen word obsessed. It was saying this: your grandchildren are available, Charles. But there are conditions. That is the move. That has always been the move. Archie is now 6 years old. He has spent almost his entire conscious life in California. Lilibet, who carries the name of a queen, visited the United Kingdom exactly once. In June 2022, during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. She was barely a year old. She would not remember a single moment of it. Both children have grown up strangers to their own grandfather. A grandfather who is aging. A grandfather who is unwell. A grandfather who, by every account from people close to him, aches with the particular grief of a man who knows time is not on his side. Harry knows this. He has always known this. And the decision to use it, to hold those children up as both gift and ultimatum, is the most revealing thing Harry has done in years. More revealing than the book. More revealing than the Oprah interview. More revealing even than the Netflix documentary where the history of an entire family was repackaged as content and sold to the highest bidder. Because at least with the book, there was an argument, however thin, that Harry was processing pain. That spare was therapeutic. That he needed the world to hear his side. There is no therapeutic reading of what is happening now. This is leverage. What makes it more extraordinary is the timing. Harry is coming to London in July. The official reason is the Invictus Games one-year countdown event. Think about that for a moment.
But obviously, pretty gutted about the decision. We thought it was going to go our way, but it certainly has proven that there was no way to win this through the courts.
A man flies from California to the United Kingdom, an 11-hour journey, to attend an announcement about something happening 12 months in the future. That is not a scheduled engagement. That is a pretext. The real trip has nothing to do with Invictus. Invictus is the cover. The real trip is about securing a face-to-face meeting with King Charles. It is about planting the flag. It is about arriving with his family, because that is the plan. Bring Meghan, bring the children, and watching a sick, aging father struggle to say no to the grandchildren standing in front of him. And here is the part that should make every person watching genuinely uncomfortable. It might work. Charles is not a cold man. Whatever fury he carries, and the anger after that September 2025 Sandringham meeting, when Harry walked out and went straight to the Guardian newspaper, spilling the details of a private conversation to a publication that openly campaigns for the abolition of the monarchy, whatever fury burns beneath the surface, Charles is also a grandfather. A human being. A man watching his own clock. Harry is gambling on that humanity. He is betting that when Archie and Lilibet walk into a room, King Charles will not be a monarch enforcing institutional standards. He will just be a grandfather. And grandfathers blink. But there is a second layer to this operation that has nothing to do with Charles and everything to do with the British government. Because the security question is not just a safety concern. For Harry, the police escorts and the outriders and the motorcades are something else entirely. They are proof of status. They are the visible, audible, undeniable signal to the world that Harry still matters. That he is still someone. That the nobody who moved to California and discovered, with apparent shock, that America did not care about a British prince without a title or a purpose, that nobody gets to feel like a somebody again the moment the blue lights come on. The security is not about protection. The security is about the ego. And so here is what is actually happening beneath the headlines and the page 6 stories and the warm language about grandfathers and grandchildren. Harry is running 2 operations simultaneously. He is applying emotional pressure to a dying king using children who cannot consent to being used. And he is pressuring the British government to hand him the one visible symbol of relevance he has left. Both operations are dressed up as something reasonable. As something human. As something a reasonable person might even sympathize with. Neither of them is. The palace has not forgotten what was said. Not in the book. Not on the Oprah sofa. Not in the Netflix series where Queen Elizabeth was mocked with a level of casualness that left even Harry's most loyal defenders briefly silent. The institution has a memory that stretches back centuries. It does not forget. It does not forgive on demand. And it certainly does not negotiate when the opening position is emotional blackmail wrapped in a press leak to an American gossip publication. Charles is torn. The sources are clear on that. He is furious and he is grieving, and he is a father who misses his son and a grandfather who misses children he barely knows. But torn is not the same as defeated. And the question now, the question hanging over every conversation in every palace corridor and every government briefing room, is whether the institution will hold, or whether Harry, who has already sold so much, will find a way to sell it one more time. To understand how Harry arrived at this moment, it is necessary to go back. Not to the wedding. Not to the Oprah interview. Not even to the book. Go back to the money. Because the Sussex financial empire, the one built on the rubble of royal titles and family relationships and the carefully curated mythology of two people brave enough to walk away, that empire was never as solid as it looked. It was built on attention. And attention, unlike a trust fund, runs out. The Spotify deal was worth an estimated $18 million. A podcast empire, they called it. Actual audio was going to change the conversation. It was going to be meaningful and global and transformative. It produced one season of a show called Archetypes. One season. And then Spotify, a company that does not spend $18 million on sentiment, quietly ended the relationship. A senior Spotify executive later described the arrangement in terms that were not published in the Sussex-friendly press. The message was clear. The audience was not there. Netflix came next. Or rather, Netflix came first and then slowly, expensively, disappointingly faded. The documentary Harry and Meghan, released in December 2022, generated enormous viewing numbers in its first week. Controversy is good for clicks. But the follow-up, the content that was supposed to sustain a multi-year, $100 million deal, struggled. With Love, Meghan, a lifestyle series that positioned the Duchess as a kind of transatlantic domestic goddess, aired to reviews that were generous only in the sense that most critics chose brevity over cruelty. Season 2 came and went.
Whatever noise has been created, whatever stories have been written, this has always been the sticking point. And, you know, put yourself in my shoes. If you step back to try to create a different role, the same official role, but a different working relationship with the institution that you were born into for the sake of your wife and your own mental health and your child, which now, of course, a lot more has come out because I felt as though it needed to come out. The other side of the story needed to be told.
The conversation around it lasted approximately 72 hours. There has been no Season 3 announcement. There will not be one. And Spare, the book that was supposed to be Harry's definitive statement. The memoir that named names and reopened wounds and made an entire royal family flinch. It sold enormously in the first weeks. But books have a shelf life. The advances are spent. The royalty checks diminish. And the publicity cycle for Spare ended a long time ago. There is no second volume coming. Penguin Random House, by all accounts, is not asking for one. The market for Harry's grievances has, it appears, reached saturation point. So the money machine that was supposed to replace the institution, it stalled. And stalling, for a couple burning through the maintenance costs of a $20 million Montecito estate, is another word for falling. Meanwhile, Meghan kept moving. Give her that. Whatever else can be said about the Duchess of Sussex, she is not passive. She was on the phone. She was sending messages. She was pitching. She launched American Riviera Orchard, a lifestyle brand that generated enormous online curiosity when it announced itself in early 2024, and then went very, very quiet. A small number of products were sent to celebrity friends. None were sent to stores. The brand that was supposed to rival Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop seemed to exist primarily as an idea, a potential, a promise of commerce that had not yet found its form. The hustle was real. The results were not. And Harry? Harry disappeared. In April of 2026, the Australian royal commentator Danielle E. Esela began counting. 41 days. 41 consecutive days in which Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, a man once photographed at the centre of every global event he could reach, had vanished entirely from public life. No appearances. No statements. No carefully arranged photographs emerging from the Sussex communications team. Nothing. Esela wrote about it with dry wit, describing the situation as though posting a missing persons notice, last seen in April, answers to the name of H. But underneath the humour was something more serious. A man with purpose does not disappear for 41 days. A man with income does not disappear for 41 days. A man who is thriving, who is building, who is genuinely constructing the independent life he claimed to want when he left the royal family in January 2020, that man does not go dark for 6 weeks. Harry went dark because there was nothing to show. And here is where the picture becomes uncomfortably clear. The financial pressure. The evaporating deals. The brand that would not launch. The podcast empire that lasted 1 season. The Netflix lifestyle show that nobody watched. The Invictus Games hemorrhaging sponsors while veterans expressed open frustration that the whole operation had drifted from its original purpose. All of it accumulating. All of it pressing down. And then something shifted. The Sussex machine, which had gone quiet, suddenly stirred. Stories began appearing. Carefully placed. Strategically timed. Harry misses his family. Harry regrets what he said. Harry is eager to bring Meghan and the children to the UK. Harry wants reconciliation with William. Harry is obsessed with the idea of the family reuniting. The timing was not coincidental. It never is. Because the one asset Harry has not yet fully liquidated, the one revenue stream, the one source of global relevance, the one thing that makes him more than just another wealthy American nobody, is his connection to the British Crown. And he knows it. He has always known it. The irony is that the institution he spent 3 years dismantling for profit is the only thing left that can restore the profit. He needs the crown. And the crown, for the first time in years, has something he desperately wants. The question was never whether Harry would try to come back. The question was always how. Now the plan is visible. Every piece of it. And it is worth examining carefully, because the architecture of this operation is more sophisticated than it first appears, and far more troubling. It begins with the security question. Harry has argued, consistently and loudly, that he cannot bring his family to the United Kingdom without a guarantee of armed police protection. The British government removed his publicly funded security detail when he stepped back from royal duties. Harry challenged that decision in court. He lost. He appealed. He lost again. He gave interviews about it, using language, words like establishment stitch-up, systemic failure, deliberate targeting, that carried a particular quality. A conspiratorial quality. The language of a man who has, by his own written admission in Spare, spent extended periods experimenting with mind-altering substances, and who seems, in his public statements, to have arrived at a worldview in which every institution that does not serve his immediate interests is engaged in a coordinated campaign against him. But now, according to sources cited by the Daily Mail in January of 2026, the security decision has effectively been made. Government insiders have indicated that approval is coming. That it is, in their words, a formality. And Harry knows this. Which means the moment that approval lands, the pretext for keeping the family away evaporates. The shield is gone. The excuse is gone. And suddenly the trip to London, officially scheduled around the Invictus Games' one-year countdown in July, becomes something else entirely. Think about what the Invictus countdown actually is. It is an event to announce that another event is happening in 12 months. That is the reason, the stated reason, that a man.
Well, fortunately, Harry emerged unscathed and made it back up the slopes to deliver a heartwarming message of peace and reconciliation. At least that was the plan.
We see it on a day-to-day basis. You know, the strength of the family unit coming together.
How have you processed the fact that there's so much happening back with your family?
I have my own family,
right?
So as we all do.
Yeah.
I've got other trips planned that would take me through the UK or back to the UK. So I'll stop in and see my family as much as I can.
Would fly 11 hours from California to London and back to attend a press announcement about a future press announcement. If that sounds like the thinnest pretext ever constructed for a transatlantic journey, that is because it is. The Invictus Games themselves are in serious trouble. The cost per participant has ballooned to over $100,000, a figure that has left donors questioning where the money is actually going. Sponsors are withdrawing. Veterans who were meant to be the centerpiece of the entire operation have begun speaking publicly about feeling sidelined, about watching an event designed to honor their sacrifice transform gradually into a backdrop for the Sussex brand. The people Invictus was built to serve are, in some cases, furious. And Harry, the founder, the public face, the man whose personal story of military service and subsequent injury gave the whole organization its emotional core, Harry has been absent. 41 days dark. Not managing the crisis. Not addressing the veterans. Not speaking to the sponsors. Absent. Because Invictus, it turns out, is also a vehicle now. It is the reason for the trip. And the trip is the reason for the meeting. And the meeting is the mechanism for the deal. The deal being this. Harry comes to London. He brings Meghan. He brings Archie and Lilibet, the grandchildren King Charles has barely seen and, given his age and his illness, may not have many more opportunities to know. He secures a private meeting. He allows the image of the reunion, grandfather and grandchildren, to exist, to breathe, to soften whatever hard institutional ground Charles is standing on. And in the warmth of that moment, with two small children in the room, Harry presents his ask. A new role. Enhanced status. A pathway back. And the children, who did not choose any of this, who cannot consent to being instruments of negotiation, who are 6 and 4 years old and know nothing of royal protocols or Sussex press strategy or the financial pressures that have brought their family to this particular crossroads, the children are the key that unlocks the door. Dan Wakeford, founder of Celebrity Intelligence, a man with genuine access to the Sussex Circle, said it plainly in an interview on the Royals Uncensored podcast. Harry has regrets, Wakeford said. He regrets the book. He regrets the documentary. He regrets the Oprah interview. He wants to reconcile with William. He is hoping William will reach out. It sounded, on the surface, like a genuine reckoning. It was not. Consider the specific nature of these regrets. Harry regrets Spare, a book that earned him an advance reported at $20 million, of which not a single pound has been offered back to the family members he eviscerated in its pages. He regrets the Netflix documentary, a production he was paid handsomely to make, the proceeds of which continue to fund the Montecito mortgage. He regrets the Oprah interview, the one that aired to over 17 million viewers in the United States alone and established the Sussex brand at a global scale that no subsequent project has matched. He regrets all of it. And yet he has returned every penny of none of it. If the regret were real. If the remorse were genuine and not a calculated repositioning designed to soften the ground for a return, the arithmetic would be simple. Give the money back. Acknowledge, in specific terms and not through a celebrity intermediary, the damage caused. Pick up the phone and call William directly instead of briefing journalists that the phone number is somehow unavailable. William's number is not unavailable. William is unavailable. There is a distinction, and it is everything. Prince William has handled Harry with a silence so disciplined and so absolute that it functions as its own form of statement. No leaks. No briefings. No carefully worded responses through aides. Nothing. William has looked at the situation, assessed it with the clarity of a man who will one day be king, and decided that the most powerful thing he can do is precisely nothing. No engagement. No invitation. No signal that the door is open even a crack. Because William understands something that Charles, in his grief and his illness and his complicated love for his younger son, is struggling to hold on to. You cannot negotiate with someone who is using your own emotions as a weapon against you. José Andrés, the celebrated chef and genuine humanitarian, is a close friend of the Sussexes. He appeared in With Love, Meghan. He speaks warmly about Harry and Meghan as a family, as ordinary people with ordinary conversations about food and life and children. He told People magazine, which functions in this context as something very close to an official Sussex communications channel, that the couple are remarkably normal despite their extraordinary public profile. Normal. $20 million house. 16 bathrooms. Private jets. A communications operation sophisticated enough to plant coordinated stories in multiple publications across 2 continents simultaneously. Normal. And yet even in Andrés' generous portrait, something reveals itself. He speaks about Meghan's warmth with her children, about food being central to family life, about conversations being grounded and human. And all of that may be true. Harry and Meghan may be wonderful parents. The children may be happy and loved and thriving in Montecito. But Thomas Markle Sr. is dying. He has been in poor health for years. He suffered a significant medical event while in the Philippines. He is, by his own account and the account of those around him, a man in the final chapter of his life. His one expressed wish, stated publicly, repeated, never retracted, is to see his daughter one more time. To meet his grandchildren, the ones named Archie and Lilibet, for the first time. He has never met them. If family is the foundation, if warmth and connection and the bonds between generations are the values the Sussexes claim to champion, then Thomas Markle Sr. should have been on a plane years ago. The grandchildren should know his face. And the fact that they do not, that he sits somewhere in Mexico in deteriorating health having never held either of them, tells a story that no amount of Instagram content or People magazine profiles can fully obscure. The same children being offered to King Charles as emotional leverage. The same children whose faces now appear regularly on the Sussex social media accounts, despite years of the couple insisting their children would be shielded from public life, would be raised privately, would have the normal childhoods that Harry and Meghan felt they themselves had been denied. Private. Until the deals ran dry. Private. Until the Instagram followers needed content. Private. Until a father needed a bargaining chip. When Archie and Lilibet are 18 years old, they will be global figures whether they want to be or not. They will carry names and titles and the weight of a story that was written around them before they were old enough to understand any of it. And they will be old enough, at 18, to ask questions. To read the book. To watch the documentary. To understand what decisions were made on their behalf and why. They will understand that their grandfather, a king, spent the final years of his life longing to know them. That the man who wore the crown and carried the weight of an institution centuries old wanted nothing more than an afternoon with his grandchildren. And that the price of that afternoon was set not by love, but by negotiation. They will understand what was traded away. And what it was traded for. Now the final question. The one that cuts through everything else. The institution versus the individual. The crown versus the calculation. Will it hold? King Charles is not a simple man to read from the outside. He is an intellectual, a man of deep environmental convictions and genuine spiritual complexity, someone who spent decades waiting for a role that consumed his predecessors in different ways. He is also, underneath all of it, a father. And fathers, even kings, carry wounds that policy cannot fully heal. The anger from the September 2025 Sandringham meeting is real and documented. Harry sat with his father privately, and then walked out of that meeting and called The Guardian. Not a palace-friendly tabloid. Not a neutral outlet. The Guardian. A publication with an openly stated position that the monarchy should be abolished. Harry gave a private family conversation to people who would use it as ammunition against the very institution his father represents. Charles did not respond publicly. He rarely does. but people close to him described a level of hurt that went beyond ordinary betrayal. And yet, Charles is still considering seeing Harry. The door is not fully closed. The grandchildren are still a variable. The human calculation keeps interrupting the institutional one. That is the crack Harry is trying to push open. But here is what must be understood about the Crown as an institution, and what every observer who has watched this family navigate crisis after crisis has eventually come to recognize. The Crown does not respond to emotional pressure on a timeline dictated by the person applying that pressure. It moves at its own pace. It calculates at its own depth. It has survived abdications and scandals and world wars and the complete restructuring of the British Empire. It has outlasted every individual who has ever tried to leverage it for personal gain. Every single one. Harry is not the first person to discover that proximity to the Crown is the most valuable thing he possesses. He is not the first person to try to monetize that proximity and then find, to his genuine surprise, that the market has limits. He is not the first person to attempt a return after a public rupture, armed with children and regrets and carefully placed press stories. What is different about Harry's situation is the specificity of the damage. The book named names. The documentary aired private pain on a global platform. The Oprah interview introduced allegations that the palace has never fully been able to respond to without descending into the exact kind of public war it has spent a century refusing to fight. The wounds are specific. The record is permanent. And the Crown, whatever private grief Charles carries, is an institution that must also protect its own survival. That protection means not blinking. Because if Charles blinks, if the security gets signed off and the meeting happens and Archie and Lilibet melt a grandfather's heart and Harry walks away with a new arrangement, an enhanced role, a pathway back that was purchased with the very children who were supposed to be kept private, then something is established. Something is confirmed. Not just about Harry, but about method. About what works. It confirms that emotional blackmail works on the British monarchy. It confirms that the way to extract concessions from the Crown is to weaponize the people the king loves most and offer them as a conditional gift. And it invites everyone, in every family dispute and every royal negotiation for generations to come, to use the same playbook. William sees this clearly. That is why the silence. That is why the ghosting. That is why, when Harry's representatives brief journalists that the prince simply does not have William's phone number, the future king says nothing, corrects nothing, offers nothing. Because William is not managing a relationship right now. William is managing a precedent. Prince William is the answer to the question of what the monarchy looks like when it is led by someone who will not be manipulated. He is the institutional immune response. And when his time comes, when the crown passes and the cameras track him to his first address as king, Harry will find that whatever window existed under Charles has closed entirely. William does not do second chances on a timeline set by the person who burned the first one. So what happens now? Harry's security approval is reportedly days away. The July trip is scheduled. The Invictus countdown is the stated reason. Meghan is packed, or preparing to be. Archie and Lilibet are the unspoken centerpiece of an operation dressed up as a family reunion. The British government must understand what it is approving. Not just a security arrangement. A signal. A message to the Sussex communications machine that pressure works. That patience is rewarded. That the British state can be bullied by a man with children and a phone number for page 6. The Home Office has a choice. The Palace has a choice. And Charles, in the quiet of wherever he reads his briefings and thinks his long, complicated thoughts about the son who cost him so much, Charles has a choice too. Because Harry is not coming home. He is coming to collect. He does not regret the book. He does not regret the documentary. He does not regret a single interview or a single word or a single moment of the 3-year demolition project he ran on the institution that gave him his name and his purpose and his entire identity. What Harry regrets, the only thing Harry truly regrets, is that the money stopped. The Crown did not exile Prince Harry. Prince Harry sold himself. To Netflix, to Penguin Random House, to Spotify, to Oprah, to anyone who would pay to watch him trade the family silver for a California mortgage. And now the silver is gone. And the mortgage remains. And the man who once had everything, a title, a family, a country that adored him, a future that was written in gold, is flying to London to attend a press event for a sports tournament that is losing sponsors, to ask a sick and aging father to take him back. Not because he is sorry, because he is out of options. The crown endures. It has always endured. The question is not whether the institution will survive Harry. It will. It always does. The question is whether the people inside it are strong enough, in this particular moment, with these particular stakes, to remember that. Stay close. Because what comes next in this story is something nobody in the Sussex camp wants you to see. The details of what was reportedly discussed at that September 2025 Sandringham meeting, the specific exchange between Harry and King Charles that Harry then carried straight to a newspaper, are beginning to surface. And when those details are fully understood, the picture of what Harry is actually asking for in July changes completely. It is not a reconciliation. It is not a reunion. It is a demand. And the number attached to it will leave you speechless.